Let me know when you're ready. Go. I'm going to call this meeting of September 27th, 2023, Clatsop County Board of Commissioners meeting in session. The Board of Commissioners as a governing body of Clatsop County and all county service districts for which this body so acts, and as the Clatsop County Local Contract Review Board is now meeting in regular session. We will begin with our flag salute. To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I was like, my brain was Excellent. Let's go ahead and move on to our roll call.
Vice Chair Banks?
Here.
Commissioner Toyoka?
Here.
Commissioner Webb?
Here.
Commissioner Thompson?
I'm here.
And Chair Quila?
Excused.
Thank you.
Sorry, I have to clean my glasses. I can't see. Okay. Has everyone had a moment to take a look at the agenda? Any comments, questions?
I move approval of the agenda.
Do we have a second?
Second.
A second with Commissioner Thompson. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, moving into our proclamation. It is in regards to Domestic Violence Awareness Month on page 25. Our presenters are Laura Parker, Juvenile Probation Counselor, Julie Johnson, Parole and Probation Deputy, and Community Corrections. Go ahead and come on forward and thank you for coming this evening.
Thank you for having us. I am Laura Parker again. I work for the Juvenile Department in Juvenile Probation. I recently took over as chair of the Domestic Violence for Clatsop County. And Julie, if you
Julie Johnson, Clatsop County Parole and Probation. I am the secretary for the Domestic Violence Council.
And I'd also like to recognize Jill Quackenbush, who's a long-term Domestic Violence Council member as well. The Domestic Violence Council of Clatsop County is comprised of a diverse group of individuals throughout Clatsop County, including law enforcement, counselors, school staff, court staff, survivors, the Harbor, Department of Human Services, Child Welfare, local attorneys, parole and probation, public health, and victim services. Our local Domestic Violence Council was restarted probably about 3 years ago by Sergeant Chris Hoover with parole and probation. He chaired the council until July 2023. He has made an incredible impact in this community, both in prevention, education, and intervention for domestic violence. The statutory requirements for the Domestic Violence Council include 2 annual fatality reviews, a batterers intervention review, as well as advising on policy and providing awareness campaigns in the community. Our mission of the Domestic Violence Council for Clatsop County is to bring agencies together to increase community awareness, reduce barriers to services, and promote trauma-informed, accountable, and coordinated response to increase the safety and well-being of domestic violence survivors and their children. And I think on the way in, most people saw we put up a silent witness campaign on the way in. People may have seen that before, but it kind of gives you a moment to look over domestic violence in our community specifically and how it affects children and families, obviously, as well. That silent witness campaign will go through public places in Clatsop County throughout this month. But one thing we're going to do this month that kind of is family-friendly and maybe just a way for us to bring awareness in a different way is we partnered with the Astoria Armory to do a skate night on October 22nd from 4 to 6. It's a free skate night for families to attend. We just asked that if people could to wear purple and enjoy some time with family, and we'll have some information about domestic violence there, but it'll be kind of more of a family-friendly event. And I think that's it for me. Do you have anything to add?
Nope, I think you covered it all.
Oh, and I have domestic violence pins for the Board of Commissioners. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you. Does the board have any comments?
Thank you very much for all the work that you do.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for wearing purple.
As close as I
I
can.
think you all did very well.
Do I have a motion?
Yes. I move to approve resolution and order proclaiming October
First.
1st, 2023 through October 31st, 2023 as Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and authorize the chair to read, then sign the proclamation and order.
Commissioner
Do I
Thompson.
have a second?
Thompson.
Excellent, thank you, Commissioner Thompson. The Board of Clatsop County Commissioners for Clatsop County, Oregon, in the matter of proclaiming October 1st, 2023 through October 31st, 2023 to be Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Whereas the first Domestic Violence Month, oh, I forgot to vote on it, I apologize.
Oh, yes.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, guys. Moving on. In the matter of proclaiming October 1st, 2023 through October 31st, 2023 to be Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Whereas the first Domestic Violence Month was observed in October 1987, the same year that saw the initiation of the first national domestic violence toll-free hotline, and in 1989, Congress designated October as National Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And whereas domestic violence is a pattern of assaultive and coercive behaviors, including physical and psychological, sexual and economic abuse, social isolation, and stalking, that are used to maintain power and control over a person's intimate partner. And whereas the crime of domestic violence violates an individual's dignity, privacy, security, safety, and basic human rights, and victims should have help to find the compassion, comfort, and healing they need. And whereas 1 in every 3 women will experience domestic violence during her lifetime. Domestic violence is the single largest cause of injury and homicide for women. And whereas approximately 15.5 million children are exposed to domestic violence every year, children exposed to domestic violence experience terror, isolation, guilt, helplessness, and grief, and have a higher risk of engaging in criminal behavior and substance abuse and becoming victims of a crime. And whereas domestic violence impacts the health and well-being of our community, and whereas it is incumbent on every citizen to play a role in preventing and ending domestic violence. Now therefore be it hereby resolved that the Clatsop County Board of Commissioners does hereby proclaim October 1st, 2023 through October 31st, 2023 as Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Thank you. Oh, and in Clatsop County, and invites all community members and local agencies to join in this month of observance by speaking out against domestic violence, raising awareness, and supporting survivors. Thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate you guys coming in this evening.
Thank you. Teresa, could I get some tissue?
Oh, honey.
Thank you. I apologize. Our next item on our agenda is business from the public. This is an opportunity for anyone to give a 2-minute presentation about any item on the agenda, except public hearings, or any topic of county concern that is not on the agenda. Clerk of the board, are there any members of the public signed up to speak remotely?
No, there are not.
Okay. Are there any, oh, yep, we have one individual signed up to speak in person. M.R. Lang. Okay. Give your name and address for the record, and you will have 2 minutes to speak.
Hi, I'm Mary Ang, P.O. Box 12. I'd like to thank you for being here today and thank you for your service. I had an unfortunate situation this weekend with finding out my partner has heart failure. He was down at Lifeboat and I was unable to deliver him his meds due to the discrimination I faced at Lifeboat. Additionally, a woman who is a survivor told me that she was called a rat. I believe that the director of Lifeboat has tried to intimidate her from reporting crimes, even though she is frequently cooperative regarding the assault she and her family member experienced in the homeless community. The reason I'm coming to you today is I want you to consider making safe and equitable services for women who are suffering from abuse and abuse on the street. I suffered myself from a man putting his hand around my throat in the Lifeboat community. When I tried to bring it forward, fortunately, Bo Peterson recognized my distress. I continue to face distress as this perpetrator never faces justice. He intimidated me, he verbally abused me, and he coerced violent contact on me and victim blamed me for speaking out in my defense. The types of violence the homeless women face include being chased by a metal pipe, being exposed to genitals by a Lifeboat employee, being chased by knife, hatchet, machete, threatened, with being beaten up, punched in the face. I know of a woman who was gang raped in a van. I know a person who was tied up under the boardwalk and raped. And I know of 3 separate women who faced choking incidences. There are probably many more from the violence centered in this center of town now. I ask that you protect us and that you institute changes so that the policies reflected in VAWA, the Violence Against Women Act, are implemented fully countywide. And I appreciate very much the DV Awareness Month. It's a great time to be here, and I hope you include the homeless women in your awareness. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. Moving on to the next item on our agenda is our consent calendar. Everyone has had a moment to peruse the consent calendar. Any comments or questions? Do we have a motion?
I move the adoption of the consent calendar.
Second.
Move. Adoption of the consent calendar has been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Excellent. Next item on our agenda is the commissioner's reports. Commissioner Webb.
Chair. I would like to thank very much the people coming forward with to make us aware of domestic violence awareness. There have been several times in my career that I have been in a room that people have said, that someone has said, would every woman who was a victim of domestic violence please stand up? And I'm certain that if I did that right now, that there would be more than 1 out of 3 women in this room who would do that. So thank you very much for the awareness. I think it's something dear to the hearts of all of us, and I am personally extraordinarily sad that in my 50 years in government, the statistics haven't gotten any better. I don't know what we do about that, but I think we'd better do something. Thank you. The only thing else I have to report is a temperature of 102, and every time I get on an airplane, I seem to come home to a sick bed. What's the deal? I don't know.
Petri dishes.
Yeah. So I don't know what, maybe it was my grandchildren who I can blame.
They're too cute for that.
Well, you know, that's why they are so cute. I think that this is all part of the Lord's plan, that they're so wonderful when they're little, that by the time they get to be teenagers, you want to kill them, but you don't usually very often. So I think that's definitely the reason that they're so unbelievably adorable. So I will pass.
Okay. Commissioner Thompson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I share Commissioner Webb's heartbreak over the continuation of domestic violence, and I think I can only recommit to continuing to address it by any means possible. Shifting topics, I wanted to speak with gratitude to our colleagues in other counties who came down to Klamath Falls for a conference, the AOC Legislative Conference. We gather there, colleagues, to build community, to learn how to listen to each other. But I think most importantly, because the Association of Oregon Counties is one county, one vote, it's different than the House. It's different than the Senate of our state legislature. So we have a different playing field that emphasizes more the geography of Oregon. And that's different than the population centers of Oregon. It's a wonderful learning experience because I get to hear from people who have a different lived experience than my own. And I have an abiding affection and respect for them. I can only wish I had more of you, my dear colleagues, to come down to conferences like this. It's a big commitment, and the payoff in terms of our capacity to gather resources, to build relationships, to unite us as one Oregon is so greatly enhanced. That's my rah-rah speech, okay? The kindness and the love that are growing as we develop our capacity in our relationship is just wonderful. So I'd love to share it with you. If you have interest in expanding your capacity, I'm happy to support you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Thompson. Commissioner Toyoka?
Nothing truly to share at this moment. Just thank goodness for telephones and virtually I can still be active for the county. Well, I'm a little bit incapacitated, but really appreciate the staff during this time, especially just keeping me informed, plus being a liaison for my information and my input still. Thankfully, should be back in action soon. So thank you very much.
Well, we look forward to seeing you. Thank you, Commissioner Toyoka. For me, I attended our most recent fire map. Commissioner Webb and Commissioner Thompson, I think you both were there. Happy to report that our newer fire maps, our newer state fire maps coming out, only cite moderate as being the highest fire danger for us in our community. But I think that what came out of that meeting was, even though our risk may be moderate, it does not mean that there is no risk. And so sharing with our constituents that we still need to harden our properties against fire, be thoughtful during fire season, but also when fire season isn't here and present. I did verbalize some concerns about growing fuel levels in certain areas of our state forests, and a concern about roads being vacated in this new HCP process. I'm hoping that some of our roads, that they are very considerate when they're thinking about future fire risk and future fire danger, so that we still have accessibility to areas within our forest in order to fight fire. I really am concerned about Clatsop County turning into a Santiam Pass situation. And so just making sure that we maintain awareness and be proactive, not reactive. Northwest Senior and Disability Service got rescheduled, so I will be attending that meeting virtually next week. Our FTLAC meeting got canceled. I will say I'm not sad. I didn't want to drive to Salem. Other than that, September and school has started, and I think everyone has the September cooties right now. So anyhow, other than that, next item on our agenda is the county manager's report. County manager?
Excuse me.
Yes.
Could I
Yes.
Could I add one thing to your
Certainly.
very nice description about the new fire map?
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was an incredibly important meeting because I learned so much. I wish we had had this meeting at the beginning of all of this, and I just think I would have been a lot smarter about my participation. First of all, I'd like to give kudos to our staff who has very carefully gone through these maps, and I think has been really smart and very on top of it. And I feel much better now, especially from the land use issue, about what we might need to be doing in terms of land use planning in our areas. The other thing that I hope is that we are that we're getting out the maps themselves to our citizens. Do we have some kind of an information campaign going?
The fire maps haven't been
Since they're not
officialized yet.
So that's okay. Because I think it might be worth our thinking about having maybe some public meetings, helping our citizens understand what this really means. Because I think even sitting in a room with all the bright people, I mean, there were people from several federal agencies, several state agencies, and lots of local agencies at this meeting, and I was so impressed with the amount of work that went into these maps. And I hope we can do a really good job of communicating with our citizens about what they mean. I think my first shock and awe was taking a look at the maps. I think, and forgive me for this, it's a huge mistake, but I think of our 80% forest land, and then we have this big U around it where people live. Well, you know what? The fire dangers are outside of our forests as well. So to me, it was a very good lesson for me to sit in a room with all these smart people, listening to their things. The roads issue is something, County Manager, that I hope we can talk about in the future, because that was the first time I had seen this come up, and I was totally unaware about the need to maintain access to certain forested or flammable areas. So I hope that's something that we can kind of put on our agenda to be aware of. There has been recently a real outreach on the part of our representative, Representative Bonamici, and the state in coming to us with information about the work that they're doing. And I kind of wish that the local press would cover some more of that to get the word out to our citizens. But I do think it's important that we talk to our citizens about these issues that are happening, that we're having to be educated about. I think that's all, but I reserve the right to interrupt you again.
Thank you, Commissioner Wells. County Manager's report.
Chair Banks, members of the board, good evening. I also, in Commissioner Banks' terminology, have the cooties, and so people have been under the weather, and I'm one of them. But I do want to just mention that there is an event coming up next week, which will be the ribbon cutting for the Columbia Inn. I just want to recognize Monica Steele for all of her leadership and work. As we've done that, without her, it wouldn't have came to the fruition that it has. And then most recently, Alyssa. And I also want to recognize our buildings and ground staff with Chris Martin, who's been taking interim leadership of that group as we've finalized everything. We did work with the city and have received all the inspections necessary. So the handoff to CCA, which has already been in progress, will be finalized. So I think it's a big moment. Sometimes we don't stop and think about the progress that we've made always, but there's been a lot of progress working on the homeless issues, and it's just really a harbinger for a lot of more work that'll be coming. So, but I do want to recognize staff's work. It's been exemplary, so thank you. And besides that, just a reminder to the board that I will be out for a couple weeks, celebrating my 30th wedding anniversary with my wife. Unfortunately, the potential federal shutdown might change what our plans are, but we'll be flexible. After 30 years, you learn to be flexible. So, so I'll be gone for 2 weeks, but then we'll be back. So and that's all I have. Thank you.
I just want to say congratulations on 30 years.
Congratulate her for 30 years.
Moving on to our business agenda, item number 9, amend Human Services Advisory Council bylaws, Article 4 membership on page 75, and it looks like we have Randy Anderson here to present. Do we have?
Yes, he's online.
Oh, excellent. Is he online?
I am here, sorry. I'm here virtually.
Excellent. Go ahead. Thank you.
Okay, so on the Human Services Advisory Council bylaws, we are proposing a couple of changes, 3 changes actually. Under Article 4 membership, Section 2, number 1, currently states membership on the council shall not exceed 9 voting members, or 9. We would like to change that to membership on the council shall not exceed 9 voting members. And the justification for that is to clarify that ex officio members are not included in membership total, so they are non-voting members. And then moving on to Section 2, number 4, it states, currently states representation shall also include minority members who reasonably reflect the proportion of the need for alcoholism treatment and rehabilitation services, etc. We would like to change the word alcoholism to substance use disorder. And the justification on that is the term substance use disorder is more inclusive. And then in Section 3, it currently states upon 3 unexcused absences from scheduled council meetings by a member, the member will be contacted by the chair to see the intention of continued service on the council. So we would like to change that to after 3 unexcused absences from scheduled council meetings by a member in 1 calendar year, the member will surrender their appointment. And the justification for that is to specify next steps if a member misses more than 3 meetings. And the way it's stated now, there's really no end game. I mean, they miss 3 meetings, you talk to them, yeah, I'll continue, but then they can miss 2 or 3 more meetings, and that can just keep going on and keep going on. There's really no end game there. And that's what I have for the bylaws amendments. Any questions?
Does the board have any questions? Commissioner Thompson.
Oh, thank you, Madam Chair. Sir, this makes excellent sense to me. It's more of a comment than a question. I really like that you're actually taking steps to make sure that you have effective consequences, which seems to me to actually be the heart of human services programs, right?
Correct. Yes, ma'am.
Way to practice what you're preaching. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Commissioner West?
Once again, I'd like to commend this committee. I am always struck by how active they are. They meet throughout the year with a relatively small amount of money to be dispersed in our community, and yet they work very, very hard. They also follow up with folks who they fund and do a really nice job, I think, of assessing whether or not their money is well spent. This is a wonderful example of one of our many very active citizen advisory groups. And I certainly value their recommendations to us very, very highly, and certainly think that these changes are appropriate. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Any
you,
other comments?
Commissioner Webb. We appreciate that.
Any other comments from the board? I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve the Human Resources Advisory Council's recommended appointment of Jennifer Brandon to the Human Services Advisory Council.
That's the wrong.
Wait,
It's one up above. It's approve the attached changes.
I'm sorry.
It's in yellow right there at the top. Top yellow. Yep.
Okay. I move to approve the attached changes to the Human Services Advisory Council's bylaws, Article 4, membership. I'm sorry. That was
You're fine.
mine.
Do we have a second?
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to approve the attached changes to the Human Services Advisory Council's bylaws, Article 4, membership. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
thank you,
Motion
Commissioners.
passes. Thank you for coming this evening. We'll move on to item number 10, Sanchez temporary use permit fee waiver request on page 85. And it looks like Director Hendrickson is here to present.
Okay, thank you, Vice Chair and Commissioners. Staff is recommending that your board approve a $300 application fee waiver on behalf of Mr. Sanchez. Mr. Sanchez is in the process of rebuilding his house that was destroyed by fire in August of this year out in Westport, and he is working with his daughter in order to obtain the funds to rebuild the house, but in the meantime, he will need to live in an RV on the property. And the temporary use permit application of $300 is just a little bit more than the project can bear. So staff is requesting that you please waive the application fee, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Does the board have any comments or questions?
I have a question. Mm-hmm. And I don't mean this facetiously at all, but there have been several fires in Westport recently. Do we know anything about, I guess there's nobody here who, I'm sorry, who can answer that, but they've been devastating. And I just wondered if anybody was asking kind of what was going on out there.
Mm-hmm.
We can follow up and see if there's anything that the fire district might be able to add to that. So I'm just not sure. I think that they're all unrelated, but we can find out what the cause of the fires were.
Okay. This is something that I would find very easy to support this action.
Thank you, Commissioner Webb. Any other comments? Questions? I'd entertain a motion.
I move to approve a waiver of the $300 application fee for a temporary use permit for Felix Sanchez to allow Mr. Sanchez to temporarily live in an RV while his fire-destroyed home is replaced.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to approve a waiver of the $300 application fee for a temporary use permit for Felix Sanchez to allow Mr. Sanchez to temporarily live in an RV while his fire-destroyed home is replaced. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, anyone opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Looks like next item is the good of the order. Commissioner Thompson?
Madam Chair, it's been a long day. Did we skip the motion on page 76 to approve Jennifer Brandon? I think Commissioner Webb.
Yes, you did.
We did both.
Thank you.
That was a consent item
That was a consent item.
because she was the only.
That isn't where it appears in my packet, though. So, okay, so I misunderstood. Sorry, thanks. Just want to make sure she gets appointed.
Okay, can you, this is Randy Anderson. And on the agenda I'm looking at, it's on the business agenda. Can you fill me in on what the consent part is on that?
I'm looking at our executive assistant over here and I'm hoping that she'll be able to fill me in. So give me a moment.
Yeah, the Human Service Advisory Council membership recommendation is item number 8, and that is under consent. And the reason that they put it under consent was that she is the only applicant, and they're just adding to their board, how many members they have.
Randy, did you
So
hear?
there's no extra motion for that.
So there is no
Yes,
extra
yes.
motion. Okay, excellent. Commissioner Thompson, did you have any further questions?
Well, I think what was
So
confusing.
I'm assuming
Randy, can I
that-
say something? I
Yes,
think,
ma'am.
thank you, sir. What's, item 9 should then read page 78, shouldn't it? To be clear, because they both say page 75.
Yes,
was my-
that is correct. It's the page, yes, that's correct.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Thank you, sir. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I was on a roll there.
Oh, that's okay.
Commissioner
I
Thompson.
don't mind. So I'm assuming her application has been approved then.
Yes, it has.
Great. Thank you. I appreciate it, commissioners.
Thank you. Do we have anything further for the good of the order? I move to adjourn.